The Avowed drama is completely ridiculous. 2024 has graced us with an unending parade of video game controversies, each one more cringeworthy than the last, and as if to remind us that this year's drama quota is far from met, the latest spectacle surrounding the upcoming game Avowed proves that the industry simply can't let us have a quiet moment to breathe. From ideological clashes between developers and gamers to even Elon Musk getting involved, leading to the game's art director having a complete meltdown. This saga is nothing short of absurd. It's a perfect showcase of just how huge the divide has grown between the AAA developers and the very audience they're supposedly catering for. So let's wade into this train wreck and dissect how the game's reputation is being obliterated long before release, thanks in no small part to baffling corporate decisions and an art director who apparently can't resist shooting himself in the foot at every opportunity, all while alienating the very audience the game desperately needs. I am Lady Decade. If you like it spicy, then hit that subscribe button, as this is why the Avowed drama is completely pathetic. Dustspawn, Dragon Age the Vanguard, and Star Wars Outlaws are just a few shining examples of games that gamers have utterly dunked on for their ham-fisted progressive messaging and gameplay that's about as exciting as watching paint dry. These masterpieces of corporate pandering seem tailor-made for the imaginary modern audience, as if the HR department were in the room personally overseeing every narrative beat. Unsurprisingly, these titles are floundering in the marketplace, failing miserably to achieve the lofty sales figures their publishers no doubt fantasized about. Who could have guessed that pandering and mediocrity wouldn't translate to success? Fortunately, we, the gaming public, possess far more intelligence than the out-of-touch fools running the show give us credits for. Armed with the ability to vote with our wallets, we've been gleefully rejecting these so-called investor-safe games en masse, while loudly proclaiming the virtues of genuinely high-quality titles. Unsurprisingly, user review scores overwhelmingly reflect this shift, proof that gamers won't settle for mediocrity just because some suit thinks they know what we want better than we do. What's even better is that, even in a year where budgets are tight, I've got an incredible way for you to snag huge discounts on the best games out there. Always wanted to dive into the epic world of Black Myth Wukong? You're in luck. Use my links to save big. Dreaming of the adrenaline-pumping action of Space Marine 2? My links have you covered. But it doesn't stop there. How about massive savings on Metaphor ReFantazio, Like a Dragon Infinite 12, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, or even Final Fantasy 16? I've got exclusive discounts on all of these amazing titles and so much more. Whether you're into modern AAA blockbusters, indie darlings, or retro classics, there's something for everyone, with discounts of up to 90% off of thousands of incredible games. Think about that game you've been eyeing for your collection. Now's the time to grab it at a price you won't believe. So why wait? Start shopping, start saving, and most importantly, start playing the best games around. Links are available via the pinned comment. Happy gaming. Reflecting on the games I just mentioned, while 2024 has certainly given us plenty to laugh at, it's also delivered us a wealth of titles worth celebrating. As it stands, I'm predicting 2025 will follow a very similar pattern, offering a mix of the laughable and the laudable to keep us talking and gaming all year long. So, despite not being out yet, what is Avowed? And why is there already drama surrounding this game? Avowed is an upcoming action role-playing game developed by Obsidian Entertainment, the studio known for titles like The Outer Worlds, Pillars of Eternity, and Fallout New Vegas. Published by Xbox Game Studios, it's being positioned as one of the flagship games for the Xbox platform, while also launching on PC. The game is set in the Pillars of Eternity universe, specifically in the richly detailed world of Eora. Unlike the isometric perspective of the Pillars games, Avowed takes a bold step into first-person gameplay, which has led to some drawing comparisons to titles like Skyrim. Eora offers a high fantasy setting filled with gods and powerful magic, which on the surface seems like the usual compelling backdrop for a title like this. Gameplay in Avowed promises a blend of melee combat, magic and exploration, allowing players to wield swords and shields while casting spells with the freedom to tackle challenges in various ways, whether through combat, stealth or creative problem solving. This flexibility is paired with a tone that leans heavily into epic high fantasy with darker undertones. Sounds promising on paper, doesn't it? After all, who wouldn't want a high fantasy adventure that lets us escape from the modern world and its endless divisive debates? Well, apparently the developers don't share that sentiment. Much like Dragon Age the Veilguard before it, Avowed seems intent on being yet another medieval fantasy game dragging Western modernity and identity politics into a genre that's supposed to offer a reprieve, with one simple screenshot of the game acting as a catalyst for a ton of drama recently unfolding online. As seen in a character creation screenshot, Avowed appears to include a feature increasingly common in modern titles, requiring players to select pronouns for their custom character. This recurring inclusion has sparked criticism from some who view it as an ideological gesture and a form of moral grandstanding. Since Avowed is a fantasy game, the objections to the inclusion of pronouns stem from their perceived lack of necessity and questionable implications. Character creation already provides extensive options for self-expression such as body type, facial features, hairstyles and clothing. Adding pronoun selection on top of these seems redundant at best, especially when players can already design their characters to look however they wish. In fact, in a game where you're supposed to embark on epic battles and save the world, starting out your adventure by filling out what feels like an HR form just seems bizarre. In a system where players can create characters that appear masculine, feminine or androgynous, forcing a pronoun choice often feels out of place or, worse, completely irrelevant. The inclusion of pronouns in these settings appears less about fostering creativity or immersion and more like an obvious nod to contemporary social trends. To many, it reeks of injecting identity politics that millions are increasingly rejecting into what many feel should be a neutral, escapist space. For example, player character creation has traditionally been regarded as a sanctuary for creativity and imagination, and shoehorning in pronoun selection risks reducing it to a tool for ideological posturing, which for many people breaks immersion in the process. The absurdity of encountering modern pronouns like they, them, or neo-pronouns in a medieval RPG reduces games to instantly mirroring modern cultural debates rather than immersing players in the fictional world the game is supposed to represent. Features like this transform fantasy games into thinly veiled commentaries on current issues, which is the last thing most players are looking for when they boot up a game to escape reality. It's no surprise that so many are resisting this kind of messaging. While I'll admit it's not enough to stop me from playing a title, I completely understand why others prefer their games to stay as apolitical as possible, such as Elon Musk, for example. Things have started to heat up on the 24th of November 2024, when Elon Musk stirred the pot by quote tweeting a Grums post showcasing the Avowed character creation screen. The tech billionaire chimed in with, "Having pronouns in a video game is utterly unacceptable," complete with an angry face emoji for emphasis. However, what truly fanned the flames was the response from Avowed Art Director Matt Hansen. Rather than diffusing the situation or offering a measured defense of his creative vision, Hansen leaned into the moment with an air of gloating that many found unprofessional and polarizing. On Blue Sky, he reveled in the controversy, bragging, "Sickos.jpg. I wanted so badly to make him mad with my game and I cannot believe it actually happened." With this celebratory tone setting the stage for a series of increasingly inflammatory remarks. Hansen followed up with a taunting jab directly targeting Musk, commenting, "Just wait until you see the default, you sad little shit." Escalating his rhetoric further, he adds, "It's honestly deeply surreal to have the world's richest, shittiest boy whine about something I am making. I am quite frankly giddy. I cannot think of a single person in the world I would rather irritate." While some applauded Hansen's blunt candour and viewed it as a triumphant stand against a figure some see as divisive, of course others have criticised his comments as short-sighted and unprofessional, predicting that they could negatively affect how the public perceives the upcoming game. For an art director responsible for shaping the visual identity and tone of a major game, the spectacle of openly admitting his primary goal was to irritate one individual rather than focus on the game's artistry or its community strikes as a misplaced priority and proof that these artists are as ideologically obsessed as their most extreme detractors, alienating a broader audience who might have otherwise supported the game. Hansen's remarks, rather than defending the merits of inclusivity in gaming, have been seen as turning a complex conversation into a juvenile feud, making the discourse about personal antagonism rather than the game itself or its creative vision. By framing his public statements as a victory in a personal grudge, Hansen has drawn attention away from the game's potential strengths, such as its narrative, gameplay mechanics or artistic design, and placed it squarely on a polarizing controversy. Ultimately, while Hansen's supporters might rally behind his defiance, the fallout from his comments risk reinforcing perception that Avowed is less about engaging its community with a compelling experience and more about making a statement at the expense of its wider appeal. For a title that has yet to establish itself in a competitive market, this drama could be a costly distraction from its core mission: creating a game that, people want to buy and support. After seemingly biting off more than he could chew, it's no surprise that Matt Hansen has faced ongoing public backlash, particularly as others have started to highlight his story of making erratic, politically charged statements online. Asmon Gold, for instance, highlighted a particularly tone-deaf and racially charged comment from Matt that has since aged like milk. Reminder to black artists out there who are looking for portfolio reviews or job advice: my DMs are open and you will always have my priority. We got too many crusty white dudes in the field. Please let me help you replace me one day. I want to go back to living in the woods. Unsurprisingly, this gem of a statement doesn't sit well with many. While Matt likely thought he was championing diversity, the delivery couldn't have been more counterproductive. Not only does he alienate countless aspiring artists by implying their opportunities should depend on their race rather than merit, but he also insults an entire segment of professionals by dismissing them as crusty white dudes. To top it off, his bizarre self-deprecating desire to live in the woods only made him look like someone desperate to score virtue points rather than someone genuinely invested in a positive change. Gamers are understandably ridiculing this man not just because of the substance of his comments, but also because of his sheer arrogance and lack of self-awareness when making such a statement publicly. For someone in a leadership position on a major project, this kind of behaviour only reinforces why so many have lost faith in the Western AAA gaming industry. Polarising political commentator and social media influencer Ian Miles Chong would latch onto Matt's comments, noting that this means that Microsoft's gaming division is excluding whites from being hired to work on their video games, as the company's executives have an explicit mandate against crusty old white dudes. Musk quoted Chong's tweet and tagged the chairman and CEO of Microsoft, stating that this was illegal, sparking even more debate, with the richest man on earth stepping into this shitstorm once again. Honestly, what is this timeline? 2024 is insane. What's interesting is that it would later be discovered that Matt Hansen has been abusing Elon Musk online months and months prior to their most recent exchanges, with Musk catching Hansen's attention when back in March Elon would present the opinion that he believed it should not be acceptable for any company in the gaming industry to be racist or sexist against white guys. Matt would venomously react to this, stating, "Oh Elon, you sweet summer child. This will only embolden me, you sad sack of shit." This statement further highlights Matt's inability to maintain a level of decorum expected of someone in his position. Instead of presenting himself as a thoughtful industry leader, Matt increasingly comes across as combative and reckless. His online presence is more akin to internet trolling than the words of a respected professional. As a prominent figure in the gaming industry, Matt's words carry significant weight, not just for himself, but for the companies and projects he represents. His decision to regularly lash out in such an inflammatory manner reflects poorly on his professionalism and casts doubt on his ability to lead. For someone in a creative leadership role, public perception is critical, and this kind of conduct does little to inspire confidence among fans or industry peers. This week, Musk has responded to a repost of the comments we just discussed in a pointed remark stating, "He is confessing to illegal behaviour. Won't end well for him." With Matt regularly responding so emotionally and aggressively, it seems that he is only escalating the drama, drawing even more attention to his behaviour. With this pronouns thing, what could have been a minor passing controversy has turned into a glaring example of unprofessional conduct, overshadowing the game he was supposed to be promoting and potentially triggering an investigation into discriminatory hiring practices. All of this has gotten very ugly very quickly, and I'm not talking about Avowed female character models. This controversy prompted a response from former Obsidian developer and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 design lead Chris Avellone. Taking to Twitter, Avellone shared his thoughts, advising anyone who had been rejected from an art position at Obsidian in recent years to consider legal action. He stated, "Based on recent news, if you were rejected from an art position at Obsidian in the past few years, call a lawyer. Discrimination in hiring, especially for a Microsoft studio, can ensure you don't need to apply for a job ever again." He went on to add, "And it shouldn't cost you a cent to initiate legal action. The lawyers will know what the case is worth and they'll do the heavy lifting." Avellone clarified his stance by emphasising, "This has nothing to do with my personal politics, but I believe strongly that hiring discrimination for any reason isn't something the industry should tolerate. I hope you agree." His comments underscored the seriousness of the allegations and highlighted potential legal implications for studios engaging in discriminatory hiring practices, particularly under the ownership of a company like Microsoft. As reported by thatparkplace.com, Elon Musk is a longtime gamer who once held the top rank in Diablo 4. He has never shied away from sharing his opinions on the gaming industry, and he's been especially vocal about what he perceives as his increasing preoccupation with identity politics and virtue signalling. Topics like the inclusion of pronoun selection in AAA games and the rise of agenda-driven content on consoles have drawn Musk's ire, reflecting broader frustrations among a growing number of gamers. The ideological approach to storytelling has become a staple in modern gaming, with fans now pushing back against what they perceive as pandering and poorly implemented narratives. There is definitely a huge movement against these so-called investor-safe games. On the subject of this evolving story recently, Musk amplified these sentiments by reposting a comment on X from Dogecoin creator Billy Marcus, who also criticised the current state of game development and journalism. Marcus wrote, "I don't understand how game developers and game journalism got so ideologically captured. Gamers have always been trolls, anti-greedy corporations, anti-BS. Gamers have always rejected dumb manipulative BS and can tell when someone is an outsider poser." Musk's response was characteristically bold, hinting that he may create his own game studio. The idea of Musk spearheading a gaming studio has sparked excitement and skepticism in equal measure. His track record of disrupting industries suggests he might bring much needed innovation, leaving people questioning whether he will choose to capitalise on gamer discontent. Regardless, Musk's move would likely have ripple effects, forcing traditional studios to re-evaluate their priorities and embrace new technologies. Whether this is the change the gaming industry needs or simply another bold experiment remains to be seen. As for Avowed though, what's really unfortunate for the game is that this incident doesn't just make Matt look bad. It has cast a shadow over the entire project, already resulting in an internet movement denouncing the game months before its release. While a lot of us do not have strong hopes for such a game, don't forget, I've got the perfect way for you to snag massive discounts on the best games out there. From modern AAA blockbusters to indie gems and retro classics, there's something for everyone, featuring discounts of up to 90% off of thousands of games. If there's a title you've been eyeing, now's the perfect time to grab it at an unbeatable price. Every purchase made helps support this channel, or if you want to support my work in a more personal way, you can access my behind the scenes cosplay library and more over on Patreon. See you soon.